Hello, and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I don't think you're ready for this jelly.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss The Deadly Spawn, which came out in 1983. Written by Douglas McKeown, with a story by Ted A. Bohus and John Dodds, and directed by Douglas McKeown. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Charles and his family. A strange creature has fallen from space and has taken up residence in their basement. And as Charles has found out, his parents and some of his friends have already been devoured. It's down to Charles and his brother to try to destroy the creature before it's too late.
So this is a very, very low budget movie.
Yeah!
It was actually, this is the thing that gets me the most, was that it was on a budget of $25,000.
That's not even a paycheck nowadays for some actors.
Exactly. You're just like, how did they get this made on no budget at all? Like, this came out... this film was originally advertised, or was going to be advertised as a follow-up to Alien. Like one of the taglines was like, at first, it was... The Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Then Alien, now The Deadly Spawn. There was actually a VHS cover or poster for this movie that said The Return of the Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Which, of course, they were told you can't do that because they are actually going to do an Aliens. No one knew. They were just going to put an S at the end of Alien at this point in time. But, even the creature, like, it looks kind of like a chest burster.
Yeah.
It's just flesh and teeth.
I wouldn't like how you would even try to connect it to Alien, knowing full well that the chestburster in Alien changes to a xenomorph, where this slug thing doesn't really do anything other than just get bigger
and eat
and grow extra heads and arms. Like, I'm not entirely sure how the design of this thing works, but I'm sure we'll think of something as we go, because sometimes I'm really surprised a movie comes out that I've never heard of, and I'm expecting to be absolutely fucking shit because nobody's talking about it, nobody owns it, nobody's given it to me, nobody's told me it's the greatest movie ever made or whatever. And I'm getting ready to sit and think, like we said, this movie is made on a shoestring budget. So I was expecting zilch. What I got was a goddamn gore fest. And like some of the actors, I felt like I had post-traumatic stress at the end of it as well, because I couldn't believe what I'd seen. Like, the movie immediately had me in kind of a basket case Evil Dead kind of mindset.
Very much brain dead. Peter Jackson's homemade props and everything.
Exactly.
All made with heart and passion. And now this entire film crew was made up of friends and family. That all literally just pitched in to help get this film made, which is why it explains, like, none of these have, like, extensive IMDb pages.
No.
Some of them have, like, re-emerged as actors after, like, a 20-year hiatus. And some of them have gone on to produce and do other bits and pieces.
Oh, yeah, work in the industry.
But it's definitely kind of a bit of who they know in the industry, especially when you look at this house.
Yeah.
It's Tim Hildebrandt's house.
Right.
And he's, obviously, his son is the lead actor.
Yes.
The kid in the film. And he's very, very famous for doing lots of film posters and VHS covers in the entire film industry and books and everything else. So they literally used his house and his son.
Well, see, now did they? Because immediately you see that wide shot and I'm like,
oh, well,
model.
Well, yeah, there's some glorious matte paintings and miniatures in the film. I say glorious because they're obvious miniatures.
Massive.
But you appreciate it immediately,
Yeah. That's what I did. As soon as I saw the model house, I was like, oh, it's a model house. Why have you got that there? And then I'm thinking, is it? I like the detail on it is so good. I'm having to stare and be like, no, it is. It's fake. But why is this here? And the movie immediately starts with this thing falling from space and crashing into the ground.
Like every good retro
Yeah.
alien invasion movie should start.
And with just like every other movie, you've got two unknown people in the woods who go, "Hey, let's go over and have a look at that." And these two guys go walking over, and like I said, I'm immediately like, I'm in my mindset to watch The Evil Dead because this is how ropey the acting is. You know?
Yeah, these are not actors.
Like, they're filming at night, and I'm surprised I can see anything.
And we can hear it, too.
And we can hear it.
Yeah, on a technical level, like, bravo.
Yeah. And one of them sees this comet thing and how it's hot, and his mate's like, "Well, I'm going to go get the camera and the flash because I want to take a picture of this. This is just great." And as he goes running off, the guy is killed off screen.
Hey, where's the flash gun?
Now, at first, I was kind of annoyed at that. Like, oh man, I wanted to see shit. But as the film goes on, I kind of wish some people would be killed off screen.
Well, exactly. I mean, with your first death, it sets the impression.
Yes.
You're just like, oh, it's going to be one of those movies where everybody dies off screen.
Yes.
But no, this is just teasing right now. This is building up to the real gore.
I mean, the second guy in the tent, like, dramatic acting, dramatic death sequence. You don't get no better than an arm going, "Ah!"
Now, unfortunately, what does kind of follow is about 30 minutes of fluff.
Yes.
Now, there are some moments, there's some great moments in there, but it is a lot of fluff as we get introduced to this family.
Yeah.
And we also know that this creature, after feeding on those other two, has grown because we see its silhouette. And it
yes.
just looks like limbs and body parts moving. It's all silhouetted.
It's brilliant.
But we get the impression that they have made their way into the basement of this house through
Yeah.
camera work, sound effects, and the fact that these people keep hearing things down there and keep calling out down there and then wandering off down there
Yeah.
just to get fed upon.
I love the fact, well, I mean, I did get a bit confused, but it meant I had to take the time to research it, was how this whole setup works. So you've got the dad and the mum who are the owners of the house, and Charles and Pete are their sons.
That's right.
And the other two adults in the house are just family members who are visiting.
Yes, yeah.
And like initially I was like, I thought it was like a boarding house, like a hotel. Like
Yeah,
these
because
people
they
stay
have
in.
friends turn up midpoint in the film as well, and you just like, yeah.
Yeah.
It can be really hard to follow. Most of the characters are not that distinguishable, other than
going to their grandmother's house. They don't go anywhere other than this home.
right.
You know, everything resides. The whole movie pretty much
Sets in the
resides
house,
around this whole house. And I did like the way that it's just like, right, the creature's in the basement. The dad goes down there first, and he's taken out. You know, we don't see a lot of it because, you know, it's on a shoestring budget. It's 1983, you know, but I get enough that whatever's just got this dad, it's fucking dangerous. And so then the mum's wandering around. You know, she was having a shower or something, and then she wanders down. She's like, "Where are you, honey?" You know, and then she's taken out, but her face is like half ripped off and
Exactly.
shit. You
It's
know,
just
and
like,
I was like,
"Ooh."
"Woo, geez, the gore level, like."
I mean, it looks fake, but at the same time, you'd still like, that's really impressive.
Man, I don't mind. This is 80s.
Yeah.
This is 83. You know, people always give me grief like, "Ian, you got to love more 80s horror movies." Look at this.
Yes.
You know,
This is what we want.
this is like gore to the max. The whole factor with like Charles is a bit strange because there seems to be like this whole underlying storyline that his mum thinks he's a bit of an awkward kid.
Well, it's because
he's watching horror
he's
movies
into
a
horror
lot.
movies. Like his room is decorated with all of those retro 50s sci-fi movies.
Dude, honestly, if we had woken up our parents when we were kids with screaming horror movies, would they have asked us to turn it down?
Well,
My mum would have made me eat that fucking TV. You know,
I don't know, I grew up watching horror movies. Like the sounds of screams coming from your room, that's like normal.
yeah, but like at 7, at least the parents are fucking woke. Well, the auntie and uncle or whatever, they're woken up by his fucking screams, which coincide with the fact, you know, that the screams, any screams that they've heard from the basement, they would have mistaken for the film.
Yeah,
you know, and so they're the auntie and uncle are like, look, you know, your mum and dad have left a note saying that they were going into town, even though the weather's horrible, and so they just assume mum and dad's gone.
Not been eaten by some parasitic alien life form in the basement.
Yeah.
I mean, even the cat gets curious and goes wandering down into the basement.
I was surprised the cat doesn't die.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
It seemed like one of those films.
But they've got this thing with Charles as well, where the uncle...
He's a psychiatrist.
Yeah, yeah.
And he has that bizarre sequence where he sits the kid down and he's like,
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about your obsession with monsters and monster movies, and do they scare you? What does scare you? And, you know, the kid, like, not being an actor, it was pretty okay.
I did like that question sequence, because it was kind of like, you know, what would you do, Charles, if you found out these creatures were real? And Charles was like, well, I don't know, I suppose that's what, you know, makes them unscary, is that they're not real. And I'm like, oh.
It's a thing that he also says that he doesn't get scared that much anymore, or not really.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's kind of at least this dialogue bit, like of all the dialogue in the film, at least this has some relevance.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of dialogue in the film that means nothing. They drone on about nothing, you know, and it just gets drowned out with its inaneness.
Yeah, the conversation between Pete and his buddy and the girl that turns up, like, Pete's buddy's a complete idiot.
Yeah.
Like, he's a complete... I think that's just the way that the character's supposed to be portrayed. But when he's working alongside Pete, who is supposed to be the smart hero, who comes up with a lot of the good factors on his thoughts of what's going on, you know, his friend is just counteracting it with just, like, complete inane nonsense. And I'm like... Not only is that nonsense, but it did just fill 10 minutes of the movie, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's okay because you get these little filler scenes, you know, I call them filler, and, you know, they could have been filled with something more interesting, but it does break up the next real good Gore segment.
Yeah.
Which is where the kid now wanders down into the basement because he's trying to figure out, you know, I think the cat's gone down there again. Or...
The electric keeps going out, and they've called
Well, it's because
an
they've had a
electrician.
storm, and
Yes.
there's lots of rain, and there's flooding.
And I think, you know, he's also, I think he's planning on scaring the electrician or doing something, because obviously Charles is constantly dressing up and trying to scare people. But when he goes down there, we've already seen the electrician go down there, and then he goes down there, and you're like, fuck. Like, the creature's here, it follows sound, so as soon as Charles makes noise, he's going to die. But when he gets in there, he sees the dead body, he sees the creature, which, for $25,000, you know, is...
It's incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Like the entire prop, the entire puppet, like the 3 moving heads, the teeth, the saliva, the slime. You can see where they're inspired by Alien.
Yes, yeah.
But it is such a fantastic design. And it was John Dodds, one of the guys who helped write the story. He's the director of the special effects of the film. And he did an amazing job with this creature.
Yeah, like, and then that starts making my mind work of how this thing works. Because I assume, like, they start off as little slug things.
Yeah.
And they eat something like a piranha. And then they just keep eating it until it grows to a bigger one. But, much like critters maybe, only one of them can become, like, the mama. The queen version.
I'm just guessing, like, the first one that landed is just the mama one that... so
Well,
therefore would be bigger? But...
Well, we say that, but then later on, you know, like, who came first?
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
like, it doesn't lay eggs.
No, we don't see eggs, but it seems like it just births live offspring.
Yeah,
because we see the little ones compared to this one now, like from the meteorite at the beginning,
Yeah.
just moving through the water.
So it made me then start thinking about, like, Night of the Creeps and then Slither, you know, how these things start just replicating from just eating constantly. And when Charles is looking around, there's just... I mean, all right, the numbers estimate, but in my mind, I'm like, there's hundreds in this basement.
Yeah.
You know, we don't see them, but what we do see, they're everywhere. They're on the rafters, they're on the light switches, they are climbing out windows, and his auntie goes off to the grandmother's house at some point because the grandmother's a vegetarian. That's like an in-joke. She's got her friends coming round. And one of the creatures gets into her mixer.
Her blender.
Her blender, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is before Gremlins.
Yes.
You know, wow, this is shocking. And she fucking munches it up, doesn't mean to, you know, puts it in with its salad.
It's that great moment where she's bringing out the plates and she's like, I've added something different to
Yeah,
the
and
menu
I was like,
today.
don't eat it, don't eat it.
But it's the fact that we then see these deadly spawn emerging from under the couch.
Yes.
You know, and so we know that scene's about to build up. But the big important scene with the kid in the basement is we find out that the creatures are blind.
Yes.
You know, he clicks his finger.
Yeah.
And that the creature gets his attention. And so he knows, like, the reason why he's not died is because he's not panicked. And so the callback from the scene earlier where he's holding on to his fear, he's able to start dealing with the creature.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the other teens have found, like, one of the dead, like,
Baby ones, yeah.
spawns in there. They put it in the sink. They're talking about it. Then they end up dissecting it. They get a
Yeah.
razor blade and they're like, what is these internal organs? Lots of inane science talk that doesn't really lead to anything.
But good enough that I just felt like all of this could be expanded on more.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I'm like, you could totally remake this fucking movie and make it bigger.
I mean,
know?
there's like 4 people involved in like the writing of the story and the script, and I think there was somebody else overseeing the dialogue. And for me, I think the dialogue is the biggest problem with the film.
Yes, but then is that it's a problem of the way it was written or the way that it's delivered?
It could be a bit of both. Like, it's really hard to say.
Because I agree. Like some of the a lot of the dialogue was just really boring filler. But like some of the acting, like the kid in the basement, the monster spits out his mother's head, and it lands on the floor, and the little fucking deadly spawn start eating it as like, you know, like it's regurgitated for them, and you're with Charles staring at his dead mother's head, which is staring back at him while it's kind of wiggling while these things are eating it. I was like, fucking hell, you know, I've watched a lot of horror movies in my time, but that really hit me. You know, because I suppose because I wasn't expecting it.
Yes.
I didn't realize that this movie was going to pull the rug out from underneath me and say, what? Remember that conversation we had earlier with the kid about how you'd feel if you saw a fucking scary monster? Well, now it's come to that crunch point. And it's the same when like Pete and his friends, they run through the house with this dead one to show the uncle.
Right. And they find him. They
Yeah.
find his corpse.
Yeah, he's dead in his chair.
Looks like he's had his eyes eaten out of his face.
Out. The things have had their way with him while he's been asleep. And I'm like, oh shit. And so now it becomes a complete siege movie.
Oh, it's like pandemonium as we cut back to the old ladies are being terrorized.
Yeah.
You know, like they got them hanging off of their limbs, being eaten. Like one of the pictures gets knocked off the wall. And all the
there's
spawns,
loads.
they're everywhere.
Made me think of arachnophobia with that
it
one.
did
just
actually,
like that.
yeah, like a house under siege from these monsters.
Yeah.
It's spiders, deadly spawn.
Things in the basement.
Yeah.
And Charles actually manages to escape from the basement, but the creature follows him. So now it's chasing people around the corridors, which, as goofy as it looks, and it does look goofy because, you know, we're talking about this homemade, probably built creature chasing these actors around. You know, when their friend Kathy turns up, you know, she almost gets eaten. She's very, very pretty. I wouldn't mind seeing her be eaten a bit more. But they get separate. They get in the room. And Pete's just like, look, if we can get to my bedroom, we can get some, you know, some help, maybe call the police. And so they go to run out there, and then the creature, like, we see the silhouette of it on the wall,
right?
You know, getting ready. And then as soon as they step out, it leaps on them, and they get separated. Pete's like kind of love interest, Ellen, who we've been following through. She's a really smart girl. Like his Pete's buddy kind of fancies her, but Ellen kind of fancies Pete because he's smart. She gets completely separated by them, and the creature bashes its way into the room with her, and in the process bites her head off and throws her body out of a window.
That was fucking
I
awesome.
know.
Like, Like, the decapitation was sweet, but, you know, the body being kicked out the window afterwards was
Like-
just perfection.
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously a dummy, but the way that it falls, the way it contorts when it goes through the window, and
Yeah.
then when we see the corpse on the ground afterwards, the decapitation, I was like, it was sweet.
It was fucking awesome.
Now, apparently this character wasn't supposed to, in the original script, wasn't supposed to die until the end of the movie.
Oh, right.
But the actress got another job, and she was like, look, this job's paying.
Yeah.
This one isn't. So I gotta go.
I'm
So
out.
that's why another character literally turns up in the same scene that she gets killed off in.
That's why Kathy turned up.
Yes.
Because I was like, nobody's ever mentioned about Kathy turning up. She's just turned up. Like, hi guys, I'm here.
So, small bit of trivia for you.
Yeah.
Is that the deadly spawn, the mama spawn that
Yeah.
was in the basement, it was constructed and built in the basement. So when the time came to actually film it outside the basement,
Yeah.
it wouldn't get out. You couldn't get it through the door. So I could only imagine the horror and the despair of the guys that built it,
Yeah.
because they had to cut it in half.
Oh.
They had to cut its head off in order to
Yeah,
get
to get the
it
head
through
to
the
be able to-
doorway,
yeah.
and then reattach it. But through the magic of filmmaking, you really don't notice that at all.
I didn't notice that. I mean, I knew from like the silhouette work, you know, and the little puppetry that we saw that it was, you know, less is more. Jaws again, it worked for what I was getting, but yeah,
We
having
get-
to cut the model and then pull it out.
We still get incredible close-ups of just this mouth of teeth,
Yes.
or dripping saliva, or whatever else it is.
Yeah, and-
Does this creature? It reminds me of the first boss in Splatterhouse 2. The creature that bursts through the wall.
Yes, yeah. Well, you got the little spawns in Splathouse as
Yes,
well that come
yeah,
flying.
yeah.
You got to kick them back and come out the paths. Like I was very surprised about how Pete's character was developed from this point, because he gets separated from his buddy and Kathy, and they're hiding in the attic and they're absolutely terrified. Kathy's just like, you know, like, we're gonna die, and Pete, he climbs up on the roof in the rain and sees Ellen's body. So now he goes like completely in shock because he's seen his parents' car as well.
Yeah, he
and
realised
realised his parents have gone as well. So this one guy has lost his girlfriend and his parents in like a space of a couple of hours. And I was like, I did kind of really feel that, to the point where they are now being chased by the creature, and Charlie is now the hero. He's come back to his bedroom. He's got one of his prosthetic heads. He's filled it with a shit ton of flash powder that he's got used of. He's stuck on an electrical wire. He's connected it to an extension cord.
Right.
Lures it up to the creature, and manages to get the creature to eat it. Well, at first, like, the creature's, you know, it doesn't see the head, so he's got to lure it over, and then when it comes over, he eats it, and then he shoves the thing into the plug socket. He does get injured a couple of times as well.
Yeah.
He gets bitten as well, which I was really surprised that this movie was willing on doing what a lot of movies don't, and that's hurt a child in the process of trying to stop the creature.
With some of the shocking deaths in the film as well, you're just like, anybody's game. Like,
Yeah.
you can literally believe anybody can die at any moment. in
Yeah,
this.
and that's what I felt. But then as soon as he hits that plug and the thing just goes, I was like, yeah. I love a good monster exploding
Yeah.
sequence at the end, you know.
Yeah. And so then we think things are kind of wrapped up, you know. It's just like we see like the rest of the neighborhood
Yeah, the
getting involved. They're out
townsfolk,
there
they
with
come in.
tasers and
Yeah.
sticks. They're killing all of these deadly spawn like it's fair game, like it's a fun, you know, weekend.
Yeah, like they're having a really good time, barring the family who are
It's
absolutely
like devastated.
destroyed.
Everybody's dead.
You know, the auntie's lost her husband and her sister, and like the kids have lost their parents and their girlfriends. You know, you see like Pete's mate and Kathy in the car. They look like
Shell shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, they look like they're going to just have sex just to try to feel something after this whole situation. But they're killing all the spawns, and you're like, okay, it's coming to the end of the movie. And then the cop's there at the house, and he's just like, yeah, man, we're about ready to tie everything up.
Can't believe it. We found one that was like 8 feet long.
Yeah, he's like, oh man, you should have seen the one in the basement. That one was massive. And then you start to hear the rumbling. And the camera cuts to the wide shot of the model house from the beginning. And you watch this, like, it must be the first one. This is how I worked it out. It must, like,
It's the one from the camp, or the one...
I figured out that, like, the asteroid must have crashed. There must have been a few of them. But one like a couple of them, like maybe not the same one, like two of them maybe attacked the two campers. One went to the house, and another one went into a cave and just sat there with its mouth open. And then, like, all the wildlife over the day just kind of ended up going into his mouth. And that's the only way I can imagine how this thing
got to the size of a mountain.
A mountain! I was sat there watching this thing and I was like, why have we not got a sequel? Why are helicopters... Oh, what?
There is an unofficial sequel.
With
It was
helicopters?
called Metamorphosis, I think.
Oh, okay.
It was, I think in some, like, considering this was an unofficial sequel of Alien,
Yeah.
then this film has its own unofficial sequel. Maybe we'll review that at some point down the line. It looks...
I wanted to see helicopters and army and just
even
fucking...
the sequel doesn't go to that scale.
Oh, man.
K24, come in, K24.
Well, Ian, what were your favourite scenes from The Deadly Spawn?
Oh man, I had quite a few. The mum and dad death at the beginning. Like I'll admit, a lot of my favourite scenes have got to be a lot of the death sequences. Even the campers at the beginning, they're really goofy, but that kind of lulls you in, especially then when you get to like the mum and dad death in the basement. Then the extension into the electrician's death. Charles in the basement seeing his mum's head, that was just great. I thought that actor he really sold it to me that he was terrified.
Yeah.
You know, and he was so scared he couldn't make a sound and he was just there, you know, and just imagine his mind breaking the whole time. I really did like the question sequence with him and the uncle as well. It just, the dialogue wasn't delivered great and it, you know, maybe wasn't written great, but it just set up this Charles character. You know, why is he like this? Why is he so into horror movies? And then seeing the fact that then he becomes the hero later on, I'm like, fucking, this is like Jaws all over again. The end sequence with the big worm coming out of the ground, like, when I saw the model at the beginning, I thought it was stupid. But then I saw the payoff, and I'm like...
Totally worth it.
Totally worth it. Yeah. Ellen getting her head cut off. Really love that too.
Yeah, there's so many great and memorable moments in this film. It really is a treasure trove of WTF moments. You know, all the creature effects, whether it was wriggling, eating, moving, salivating, eating, decapitating, spawning, blending, exploding, you know, all the things that a creature in a horror movie should do.
Yeah. Oh, one more favourite sequence as well was when Charles was talking about the thing from another world.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You know, you bring up the thing, it's immediately cements the movie, yeah.
The other character that gets brought in like an hour into the movie when she first gets attacked, she just literally turns around and just goes, "What the fuck was that?" I was like, exactly. I was like, this is the most honest, real reaction anybody's given to one of these creatures in the whole film.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that line. Yeah, the miniature work and the ending, you're not going to forget that when you see it. But I also just want to say, there was a jump scare in the film that I was just like, I wonder if Spielberg saw this.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's the sequence when she goes into the basement and the arm falls down and lands on her shoulder.
That was
And then
great.
she turns around to greet him and then realize it's a severed arm that's actually still being eaten by the creature. I was like, it's like the scene with Ellie in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
There's so many great moments. So many monster... It's all the monster moments. It really is. It really, really is. Well, Ian, do you recommend The Deadly Spawn?
I did not think I would be saying this, but I fucking hell yes recommend The Deadly Spawn. Like, I'm sure that when the movie first came out and people watched it in the cinema, comparing it to other great movies at that time or that have come after, you are not going to really put this movie on a pedestal. But
I don't think this film actually ever went to the cinema. I think Paramount Pictures almost picked it up for theatrical, but I think it went straight to VHS, DVD.
Then that makes it even like scarier and rarer that this movie just doesn't get seen. You know, I read something a couple of days ago. Somebody said, like, it's amazing what somebody can do with a shoestring budget. And then somebody replied saying, as long as that person's a genius, they can take a shoestring and make it into something. And I was just like, you know what? That's a really good concept. Like, you've only got $25,000. Yes, you're going to get all your friends in. Yes, you're going to use every availability that you can. Yes, you are going to put the focus on the blood and the guts. You know, yes, okay, we want better dialogue. No, we don't. We want to see people get their fucking heads bitten off. You know? Do we want to see why these parents care and not care about their son? No, they're dead. Who cares? The sun's gonna fucking blow this creature up, and then we get a big, massive worm at the end.
I gotta say, if you love horror movies, and in particular alien monster variety movies, and you don't mind it being on the cheap and a little bit sloppy in places, then hell yes, I'd say give this a go. I wish I'd discovered this film sooner, but great to see this film has survived into the HD format thanks to its cult following, who saw the amazing alien spawn design, enjoyed the splatter gore and shock horror moments, and mixed with some black comedy. Can easily see some inspiration here for Night of the Creeps and Slither, so yeah, the acting is so-so, the music it's okay, it's nothing memorable,
No.
and the slurping, munching, dripping water sounds can get a little bit irritating, and there is a few scenes of filler and characters talking about nothing
Yeah.
of any relevance, but watch this for the creativity on a budget. Some awesome puppetry, miniatures, and effects. It's really entertaining, very rewatchable in Mankind versus the Ultimate Killing Machine.
Well,
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.